Welcome to the Pick Six preview show here for Santa Anita. This will be for Saturday, May 10th. And Gino Bacola, it was supposed to be a Pick Five preview show, but it was bombs galore all day long. And we now have a carryover rolling into the Saturday card, Gino.
Yeah, excited about that. It's always nice when we've got some money left over. So instead of a pick five, we'll expand and we'll start in race number 4 with our preview show, getting you ready for the pick 6. But like always, tons of action all over. Don't forget about the coast to coast pick 5 wagers between Santa Anita and Gulfstream Park. Also, we're only a week away from the Preakness. So there's a big Preakness Challenge tournament that's next weekend on Saturday. That's one of those huge ones. It's like $1,500 to enter. NHC seats, BCBC seats, but you can get into it for just $100 in the next few days if you want to play in some of those Pimlico feeders too at ExpressBet. So lots going on as we get you all ready for next week, headed to Pimlico. You into the first leg of the Triple Crown, and I'll be heading to the second one next week, Chappie.
Yeah, it was quite the experience. Just got back. Took me a few days to recover, but heck of a time had by all. A little too much rain on Saturday, but no. It was a bucket list, and it was incredible. So I have nothing to complain about. And, of course, Scotty McKeever was going to join us, but he's not stretched out yet. So we had to go to the bullpen. So from Equine Edge, we welcome in Justin Sampson. Justin, what's happening, my friend? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate getting a chance to join and carry over tomorrow in the Pick 6 at Santa Anita. It's amazing. And I've never been to the Derby, but I have been to the Preakness. It was great. My time of year like this, I spend time in racing, but I coach baseball as well, and it's crazy right now. So, but I love getting a chance to look at Santa Anita or Gulfstream Park, and it's going to be fun.
Yep, should be terrific. And the carryover amount, Gino, $67,674. So the pool is estimated to be around $500,000. So it looks like it's going to be a good day on tap tomorrow, Gino. And we might as well kick it off with you, my friend. Yep. I'm moving backwards now because now we are starting in race 4 for the Pick 6. Gino, we'll start with you. Let's go to mile, $16,000 non-winners, a 2 lifetime. What are your thoughts here in leg 1 of the Pick 6?
Yeah, it's a tricky way to start because you have a horse like Sand to Sea who's going to take a lot of money in here. This is a horse who's just 1 for 14 overall. So, I mean, right off the bat, I'm trying to look elsewhere for horses because I think this is a beatable, vulnerable favorite right off the bat. A couple of the horses that are on my radar. I like the 1 horse Mimosas Stretching Out. I just think this is a horse who will be a lot more forward. He gets the inside draw, sprinting a few times now, stretching out to a route. So I'm expecting this horse to take a nice step forward on the inside. Mimosas after 2 sprints to a route, 3rd start off the long layoff. Another one that's going to be in the mix for me, the 3 Princess Daddy. It's a horse who showed speed really early on in her career, but recently she's become much more of a late runner sprinting, and she's actually run into a couple of sharp horses. I just think the extra real estate will be helpful for the 3 Princess Daddy. And Chappie, you know, right now in my life, I'm watching a lot of Disney movies quite often. So I know about the number 5 Nala. That is the mommy of Simba in The Lion King. And yeah, so Nala is a horse who actually has a little bit of experience going long 2 starts back on March the 21st. I like that there's at least that race going long where she did show speed. Then when they cut her back, she came running late again. Now she'll go back long and she'll be kind of in the middle, hopefully not on the lead, but sitting a little bit closer. So a couple of these horses who I think can improve with some extra distance, maybe a little bit outside the box. 1, 3, and 5, I'll be including. Those are my mom, Mrs. B's try numbers as well. So I think she'll be boxing those 3 right up.
I like it. Gino had the hunch play for Nala. My hunch play would probably be Mimosas because I had plenty of those this weekend. But Justin, I thought this was, as Gino said, 7-horse field, but very, very tricky leg. And by the way, we might mention that you spoke just before we came on that the Scotty long shots on Equine Edge were on fire today at Santa Anita as it was price after price after price.
There was 4 in a row to close that card in the obviously Pick 6 carried up. Pick 5 paid, I think, nearly $50,000. Do you want to know who the Scotty Longshot in this race is?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you already talked about it. It's Mimosas is the Scotty Longshot. So I agree with everything you talked about. I think that she got a big shot, Gino, like you said. I mean, I think on the stretch out, I think makes a lot of sense. I agree. This is probably a spread race for me in the pick 6. I think the 2 has a big shot, Sand of the Sea. I agree, but like, I'm not sure I can trust, I liked Princess Daddy, probably would have been my top pick. I think the drop, I mean, the source is dropping a lot from our strength of race perspective. Like, it's quite a few points. And when I see that, and I mean, she ran well last out at 5.5. I think, the stretch outs is also interesting for me here. And I think you're going to get a good price. Our morning line hours are at 7-2, and you might find some value there. The way I look at value, we have a win percent, and I look at the odds. If I can start getting around 100%, and that multiplication is perfect, I think you can get that with her. And this is a perfect race. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult. Like we said, a couple of them we mentioned, the 1 and the 3. You never know till they go 2 turns, right, Gino? But they're both very interesting at a price. So, difficult leg to start out with for sure, Gino.
They remind me a couple of these sprinters, like what you see in harness racing. They're the horses that are coming late at the end, and then the next week you see them more forwardly placed, because in harness racing they race every week, and then that once they're live showing you late pace and late energy, then the next week they're going to be in the race. I think that's going to be the case with a couple of these sprinters stretching out. We'll just see them a lot more forward and a lot more engaged.
I never thought we'd get a harness reference here from Gino here on the
Lion King and harness. So check your box if you're playing bingo within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. I like it. All right. He's pulling a couple out. All right. Justin, we're going to go to you for leg number 2. And this is another good race, 6 furlongs on the turf, the $100,000 Siren Lure. And I would assume Air Force Red, the one to beat. What are your thoughts here? Braun coming off of a long layoff, lightly raced. Your thoughts in a 6-horse field, but another interesting small field.
Yeah, it's tough. I ended up, it's a bit of an angle. I just thought the race was tough and fairly wide open, but from some of these have 1 graded stakes, and then you have some layoff. You have Frazio on the lead. Braun was a question mark for me, to be honest. I probably land on Air Force Red. I mean, it has, 1 last out in a 70 for us from a strength of race, gets back to 6 furlongs. I think hasn't won at that distance, but has been facing much, much tougher, I thought, and you go back and gets to 6. I think it's a question mark, but that's where I landed on top. But I would say, I thought that Braun might run. I think Noble Reflection was interesting me for on the front end, to be honest. I kind of struggled there between Noble Reflection. I like Off the Claim. I like getting back to 6. I mean, ran 6 last out. I know didn't win in that claimer. It's a big question mark. But I like Barasio Off the Claim. Frazio right on the front end. 5-2 EE morning line shows me a lot of potential there. So for me, it was between the 1 and the 3.
Yeah, Gino, it's interesting. So there's actually 3 7-year-olds in here. Noble Reflection, the one who probably, is clearly could be Lone Speed here. Air Force Red used to be a need the lead type. Now Air Force Red can sit. Braun, so lightly raced that you wonder, does this horse now come back? Is this the same horse? It's so lightly run, but is a grade 2 winner, Gino.
Yeah, I would liking what we were talking a little bit about with the 1 Noble Reflection, where Justin was going, because knowing these horses, they're like Air Force Red was always fast at a mile. He was always on the lead. When they would cut him back to like 6 and 6.5, that's where he would be a little bit off the pace. He wasn't quite that fast. I don't know if any of these in here are quite as fast as Noble Reflection, going 6. If he gets a really good break from the inside, also pointing out, while it was a claimer that he steps up from, the horse he lost to, Yakovlev, has won 3 of the last 4, so is really sharp right now and in good form. And Barasio Off the Claim. First start off the claim over the last 5 years, what we have in the Daily Racing Form database, 11 for 35, 31% with a 641 ROI. So if you just bet $2 on every claim, you would have $6.41 back. Incredible numbers. He's won with 2 of the last 6, and average winning payouts are like $26. So they're generally big payouts. I think just comparing the one to the other horses, he can go 21-1 21-2. I just don't know if the others in here can quite go that fast. And as you were pointing out, Chappie, you have some questions about a few others, like Braun, who has raced 3 times in the last couple of years. We just don't really know. But very, very classy. Air Force Red, I think, is the one to beat. I will be using Air Force Red. I think he fits really well. I think he's just kind of a solid spot here. Final Boss seems like he's kind of maybe using this to go longer.
I agree.
I think this is just sort of a setup for him. And then it kind of gets us back to one of our old buddies, Chappie. What do we do here with Ion Rye, the horse that we've liked a little bit? And I will say, even if you are a really, really good jockey, I would probably say that Hector Berrios on the turf is an upgrade almost over anybody. So I think he's getting a big jock switch for a horse that we've pointed out is a little tricky to ride and might be a horse that you kind of have to either grab a hold and make one run with. That could actually work out well here cutting back. Because I was, you look to the outside, Lovesick Blues. This horse is now 0 for the last 16. He might be the key to the race, though, because if anybody can put a little pressure on Noble Reflection, it might be him. And
but it's the same trainer. It's the same trainer.
So that's exactly what I was going to say. Wouldn't they love to just go kind of 1-2 and stack themselves all the way around and not push them? So I think I need to use the 1 because of the possibility of this horse getting loose. I'll probably be going 1, 3, 5. Braun is the real tricky horse, depending on the way the rest of my ticket sets up. That would be the one that I'll probably use somewhere, but not necessarily love. I think you can get a couple more value horses in here, and I think we were on the same page.
Yeah, like we said, there's a lot of variables in a 6-horse field here that we went through, right? Yep. Layoff horses cutting back. The only 2 speed horses are trained by the same trainer. Clearly, the 1 is going and could set sail on the front end. All right, so let's move on to leg 3, which is the 6th race, and this is 6.5 furlongs, a maiden special weight. Gino, the 3-horse, Sierra Silver, 9-5 for Bob Baffert, showed speed last time from the rail. Obviously, the top 2 finishers came back to win again.
Top 4. There were 4 next out winners total in the race, overall in the race, including the top 2. And that horse is going to be running in the Preakness now, goal-oriented. They've said he's going to be one of the major players. We found out today Rodriguez won't be running in the Preakness. He's hopefully still going to try to make it to the Belmont. So Sierra Silver ran in a really strong race in the debut. Next out winner got a 91 buyer. That second place finisher got an 84 buyer in their next out race. 5th place finisher won back out with an 89 buyer. Even the 6th place finisher came back with a 74 buyer. Loaded race. Dam was a grade 3 winner. Horse was a little bit slow from the rail, then pushed all the way up. I think just getting off the rail will help. So nothing really negative to say about the horse to beat. Just in watching some of these horses in the morning, though, there were a couple that were like intriguing. The 6 horse, the Baffert Southern Gentleman, this horse is like one of those quirky horses. We were just talking about Rodriguez. Like, he reminds me of Rodriguez because he's obviously got talent.
But he never switches leads.
Right? But he's like green and he's fast early, but he gets tired, right? So can he get out and fly? And the way they've trained him too in the mornings is kind of funny. Like, there's obviously something there with him. He's kind of like a fascinating horse to me. So I'm probably going to throw him in the mix somewhere too. Chappie, what do we do with Cheever for Mark Glatt? This one, I think, was working pretty well, worked with Vasa. I thought Cheever was better on the April 20th work. Barn only 3 for the last 38, though, with first-time starters. For a barn that's been really good for the last couple of years overall.
Yeah. I'm with you. It's weird. I'm against Southern Gentlemen. I mean, clearly the 3 works that we could watch on First TV were against Varney, Gaming, and Cavalieri.
Good horses too, right?
A lot of speed, but never changed leads on any of the works. Stayed on the left lead the whole time. And I know, like you said, I think this horse has a ton of talent, but is just too green. And Sierra Silver's too tough. I would say Cheever would be my other one. Who didn't? Vasa was pretty good at 12-1. I mean, they were close.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Cheever just better. The 6.5 is what worries me the most with Southern Gentlemen.
Yeah.
Right? That extra distance, especially like compared to a horse who's got some bottom like Sierra Silver. But how about Baffert's last 10 first-time starters. So this is the last 4 months. 5 for 10, 9 of 10 in the money with recent first-time starters. So every one of them is firing, as you would expect from Baffert.
Now, real quick, before we get to you, Justin, or you can answer this too, I watched every work somehow. As I'm looking at it now, I'm just going to be honest. I missed Legal Air, the 7. Now, was there a work on it on First TV? I don't know how I turned the page. I don't
think so. I'll check again. I don't think so because I didn't have anything down either, and I was looking at.
While you take a look, Justin, any thoughts? Is Sierra Silver a single here? That was say that 3 times.
Yeah, I know. You all talked about Southern Gentleman, and I think that horse could be a runner based on what I see. I also had some interest in Legal Air as well.
So there is one up on First right now that I just pulled up, and it's fine. The horse just worked alone. You can see the May 1st work and a couple others on there. So if you want to watch Legal Air before you make your decisions, you can check that out at first.tv. And in races like this, that is such a valuable website where you can get all those workouts.
A 6 furlong work, which is interesting, which Papa Mandela will do sometimes. Sorry, Justin, back to you.
No, but I think we can stay there. I mean, I like the works back in February as well as, they ran a bullet in March. Papa's got him ready from what I haven't seen, any videos, but like you said, I had some interest in the 3-6-7. I would be trying to beat Sierra Silver if I was playing the pick 6 here. The Southern Gentleman shows up at 9-5 on our morning line, which I love. And then from our genetic strength rating as a first year, and actually Southern Gentleman wins the race simulator on Equinedge, and shows me there's some ability, it sounds like, based on what you're saying, maybe having some trouble in green, but I'd be trying to beat Sierra Silver here.
I'm very much against Southern Gentleman at any 7-5 because of the wrong leads. That's not a Baffert thing at all. And all 3, like you said, Gino, talented, but all 3 works never change leads, and that's going to be the downfall of that horse. Probably just put the horse in the winner's circle. Anyways, all right, let's move on to race 7. And Justin, we'll go back to you. This is 6 furlongs on the turf, $32,000 beaten claimers. What are your thoughts here?
Well, similar to the other turf race, my initial read on this, in all honesty, was looking at some speed up front again. And, when I looked at Petite Treat, I know it's that, it's a short lap, 1 at 6. That race was way tougher than this. Our strength of race was 10 points higher, and ran well up front. I don't necessarily see much in this, and I'm not sure there's a lot of speed. So I thought she might get loose. I think you might get a pretty good price. So that's what I thought here. I do think there's some others. Obviously, Loving on the Run, I think, is a player, as well as, Lady Marianne, maybe. But I that's where I looked first year, was Petite Treat on the lead.
Yeah, this is a tough race, Gino, just because there are some droppers here that are facing much easier competition, including Loving on the Run as your 9-5 morning line favorite. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so the 4, absolutely, Petite Treat's going to be in the mix. It almost looks like this race was kind of written for her, because this is a race that is for horses who have never won 2 or 3-year-olds. And she's the 3-year-old who is a 2-time winner in the race, right? Everybody else is a non-winner of 2. So she's a fit, really good fit. And as you pointed out, there's not a lot of speed. It really only looks like the 4, Petite Treat, Mucho Magical, who I kind of think might be a little bit sneaky, and a horse who I'm going to throw in just because of what Justin was saying. Like, there isn't that much early speed. I could see them trying to just get aggressive with Mucho Magical because she might be one of the most naturally quick here. I definitely want to include her. The one that I think is going to run a lot better on the drop, Chappie, and when you were talking about horses facing better, this was the one that just kind of jumped out to me, was the 5.
Yeah.
So this horse is just better than the races that she's run so far in the U.S. because she hasn't shown anything in her 2 starts. She's been 10th of 12 and 9th of 9. So she's outfinished a total of 2 horses in 2 starts out of the 20 that she's faced. But if you go back and watch her races in Ireland, she was so much better there. And the important thing in those races was she just had a lot more speed. Like, she's not that slow of a horse early on. It was just the bad starts and something went wrong, because naturally she was sitting second and third in those races. I also thought it was funny. They called her Miss Maher. So I don't know, maybe that's her name, but I heard her as Miss Meager here, but they were saying Miss Maher in the races in Ireland over at Down Royal and at Gowan Park. But I just think she's going to show up with a lot better race here. Just time off, starting over now. The works that I saw from her, they were better. And she was working with a horse named Hang the Moon, who's a multiple graded stakes winner. She was also working with a horse named Divine Propos, who you and I like, and was with both of them, like competing with them in the work. So I'm just expecting a way better race from her. It's probably going to be a lot of 4, 5, 7 for me. It's not that I don't respect the 9, just a horse that doesn't win a whole lot and not the easiest draw out there going 6 furlongs. But honestly, you could go through most of her races and she's facing better. You can find some excuses. She's just not that fast early. So she does need a little bit of help up front.
Yeah, clearly, like you guys have mentioned with the 5, Miss Maher, we'll call her this time. Yeah, obviously the start will be the key, right? I mean, off very slow both times. And one thing we've mentioned the last couple of weeks, the first part of this meet, or I should say since Santa Anita opened, Phil D'Amato was cold. He has really gotten hot the last 3 weeks, and he is winning in bunches, as trainers do. They have the times where they get cold and times where they get really hot. Now, he lost a photo in the last race on a big favorite today, but he has been winning in bunches. He had another price come home today. So,
and a horse like this, it makes sense with trainers, because what happens, they get really hot, your horses all win, then they have to step up conditions and they have to face better, right? So then it's a little bit tougher. It'll take them like 2 times or 3 times to kind of get through that level. Then when they struggle, they drop down a level a little bit. And this is one of those horses who probably stepped up, was facing maybe a little bit too tough, now gets easier company and could just look so much better on paper for a barn that's starting to really warm up.
No doubt. All right. So little interesting race once again. We're kind of 4, 5, 7, 9, I would think. All right. So let's move on to race 8. And Justin, this is a restricted $5,000 beaten claiming race, going 5.5 furlongs. Another tricky race. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, when I looked at this earlier, when Scotty, called me, and I looked to my girlfriend, I said, "Oh, they're running a 5,000 claimer here in this sequence," and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So, I looked and I was like, "Well, I'm gonna rely on Equinedge for the most part, Chappie," because I was like, "This is a rough one from my perspective." I thought that a few horses had a shot, but I think I'd probably land on Divine Rascal would be where I'd land on top. I mean, 1-2 back, that was tougher than this. I mean, the last out effort, I didn't get a chance to watch it. Look at 13 horse field at Santa Anita got shuffled, Gino, and
brutal trip, Justin. Okay. Brutal trip.
So I'm liking where I'm landing. Then I saw that and I was like, I mean, you can see that in the running lines. It just looks so bad. And I mean, it's at the board in 14 of 33. I think it's a hard knocker here. And I also, the other thing that I kind of looked at when looking there, I mean, when I look at class a little bit, but also has run well recently for me, so I like that in a race like this. So that's where I landed.
Yeah, Divine Rascal, Gino, as he mentioned, and you mentioned the brutal trip. I think this horse will go off as the favorite, but it's a full field. And any other thoughts on any of the other horses in here?
What makes it tricky, you have 7 of the horses that ran in that very same race on April 20th. They all come back here. And yeah, Divine Rascal, he actually had a good start. He was right with the leaders, but he was inside and 5 other horses wanted the lead. So they made a decision early. Okay. And it was the right decision. You didn't want to go battle inside of 5 others, but then he was inside. He got shuffled all the way back to 11th. It was a brutal shuffle and just lost a ton of positioning. And this horse actually angled out, closed well, was in a 3-way photo for 3rd. And then had a nice gallop out. So even after all that early trouble, this horse still was trying. I think fits well because there's just not that much early speed in here either. For a race like this, you generally will have 3 or 4 of the maybe less like cheaper speed horses that have been facing lower, but still have a lot of early speed, there's really not that much of it in here. And that's why I think Divine Rascal should sit a really nice trip. I even may single him on one ticket because I think this is a race where people will spread out a little bit. But I feel like with a good trip, he could be really, really tough. Because others I'm looking at, Chappie, the 3, my bucket list, he makes a lot of sense. But gosh, he doesn't have any early speed at all.
Like none. Yeah.
That hurts. And in his last race, if you bet him at the top of the lane, you would have said 1 to 9 that you were cashing your ticket. He hit the top of the lane and he just started lugging out badly. He was closer to the outer rail than he was the inner rail, and he cost himself the race there.
Yes.
So he was not you felt like you were going to win that one. Maybe if you're going a little deeper, Golf Drama has some speed. I could possibly throw that one in. And I might look to the 11 also, to the outside. I know Big Don Smiling kind of has races at this level that fit, but for me, it's like 7. And then I've got 3 or 4 other horses that are kind of in the same tier.
Yeah, the only horse I was going to mention was Big Don Smiling, who has shown some more tactical speed. Not the last couple races, but I think drawn outside, Kimura back on again. I have to think this horse is going to get show a little more speed than last time out, right, and get a good stalking trip from the outside. But Divine Rascal, like you said, brutal trip there. So interesting race. All right, let's move on to the 9th and final, Gino. And we're going back to an optional, but this is the maiden optional 65. So we eliminate some of those $1 million Baffert runners, as we could say. But a very interesting race. I'm sure you've watched plenty of the replays and workouts in here. What are your thoughts to close it out?
So this barn doesn't generally win with a lot of first-time starters, but when they do, they're like in spots like this, and they're very sneaky with first-time starters. Like I think the number I looked at over the last 5 years was just 5 for 72. So you're not going to say that this barn lights it up, but we know, Chappie, that they're capable of winning with the right horse. That's the Pipey barn. I think the 3 is very interesting in here. Lead the Way K. So Dam won, was 1 for 4. 2 siblings both won, and one won the debut. So we get solid little pedigree and some precocity in the pedigree. Then you can look at a couple of the workouts for Lead the Way K. April the 5th, solo, really solid work. I like that one. May the 3rd, worked inside of Arrival, made up a lot of, like, really started like picking things up late. Really good late energy. I thought it was very strong to outwork the workmate there. So the 3 is going to be in the mix for me. Nicolina is the horse to beat. No doubt about it. Nicolina actually worked with the other D'Amato, the 2, a friend of mine. They were working with each other on May the 3rd, and Nicolina was a little better in the morning. She just has more experience. It wouldn't be a surprise there. The other one that maybe a little outside the box is the Mandela, the 7 Moonlit Courage. This horse was fast early, but was 3 deep and was in between. So not in a great spot at all in that first race, and then was 2 deep in between, battling, tired. But the work was very nice on May the 4th and put away the workmate there and drew off. And I just feel like getting a little class relief for the 7. This one's going to improve and run really well. So probably a lot of 3, 7, and 9 for me to close things out. So
I'm going to, everything you mentioned, I'm going to add one horse in there. My top pick is actually the 7. From what you just said as well. Had speed. The last work I thought was very interesting. They kind of had a stranglehold on that horse, and after the wire, let the horse run and really galloped out well. Nicolina, clearly the horse to beat. I thought the 2 has some talent. In one of the 2 works, the 2 broke very slow and then showed a lot of speed. I think there's some talent there. I liked Lead the Way K's work last time out. That was with the horse named Royal Dusty, who you were talking about. And then the only other one I'll add is the 5, Don't Tell Our Wives. You know, that horse last time out ran against Nicolina, kind of waited at about the 3/8 pole, waited, and then got stuck late. Yep. You saw it. Yep. I don't think it would have. They were really running together and kind of took up a little bit. Now JJ takes over. I know this horse has ran a few more times than Nicolina, but I think has improved the last 2 races when this horse added the blinkers. So I'm kind of, those are, I would, in order, 7, 5, 3, 9, and I give a little look to the 2, but I like the 7 second time out. I think this horse has a lot. This horse is going to get bet more than the morning line because it's a My Racehorse. They all do, but I don't know. What are your thoughts, or what are you thinking on the Equine Edge look here, Justin?
Yeah, Nicolina's the top pick. I mean, those races come back. It looks to be quite a bit better than what these others have kind of been in. So I think your angle on the 5 was also a little bit of interest to me with JJ, and just that they both kind of, I think, come from better. Then you have some firsters, obviously. So I land on the 9, Nicolina on top. I think there is an angle there on the 7. I agree, Chappie. And I could see the firster angle, Gino, on the 3 lead the way. So, but I would put the 9 on top. I'd probably be heavier on tickets to the 9 if I was playing the pick 6, to be honest. Yeah, that'd probably be an area that is probably one of the stronger opinions, I'd say, in the sequence. So.
And I'd say, Gino, what are you thinking? Nicolina be odds on in here?
Yeah, and deserves to be. I would not try to beat the 9. I let the horse was part of a 4-wide, part of 4 that wanted the lead, moved up to press in the 3 path, was about a half length off, started to back up, and then came on again and really tried hard all the way, outfinished Don't Tell Our Wives, and now gets a cutback. So should be forward, should be close up, and should be fit. Like, no real knocks. If anyone was going to single that one, I wouldn't really talk them off that. I did think there were 2 others that might be fun if you can find ways to use them and you can have enough bankroll to do so. So yeah, absolutely, probably one of the more solid short prices in the sequence here that would be Nicolina.
Well, Gino, it looks like a good pick 6 sequence as we just went over, and lots going on tomorrow once again, my friend.
Yeah, 9 race card. Remember, the pick 6 is going to start in race number 4. Don't forget about Pimlico just starting up and tournaments over there. If you're someone who likes to play tournaments, check out ExpressBet. They've got a lot of great options for you over there. Coast to Coast pick 5. That's another option. Santa Anita website, so great. It tells you all the news, all the events, everything that's going on. If you ever want to check in, if you're going to the track, you can find out what's happening live on track that day as well. So I'm looking forward to another good weekend. And when there's carryover money in the pick 6, you always got to take a little swing.
No doubt. So everybody, good luck. Take a swing at this pick 6 tomorrow. We should have about $500,000 in there. And happy Mother's Day to all you mothers on Sunday. So for Gino and Justin, I'm Chappie. We will see you again next week. Good luck, everybody. Thank you.
Good luck, everyone.